allow me to introduce the beast. This is my new 2018 Western Star 4900 high hood. Now you see on my rollback, here's the top of the hood. On my other Western Star, here's the top of the hood. And on the beast, here's the top of the hood. This thing is an absolute monster. So before we go over all the specs of this truck, I'll tell you how I ended up buying this truck and the little hiccup we had along the way on that. This truck was at a dealer in Las Vegas, and I don't know what the actual model of these high hoods are, because this is called Western Star 4900 SB, which is setback axle. But that is also a Western Star 4900 SB, just that one has the normal sloped hood. This one has the high hood, and the reason for that high hood, I should probably explain that, is it has a much bigger radiator in it to pull much bigger weights with much more horsepower than that one can, and still keep the engine cool. But either way, I had seen this model of 4900 and absolutely fell in love with it years ago, long before I even ever bought that one, and always wanted one. And then I saw this one at a dealer in Las Vegas. Knew just by looking at it, it was an ex-DeLong heavy haul truck out of Las Vegas. And if there's one thing those guys know how to do, it's heavy haul. So I knew the specs on it were going to be done right, and everything was going to measure out perfect as far as how it weighs and splits out the load and all that stuff. They've been doing it a very long time. They know their stuff. Anyway, I went through the whole deal with the dealer of buying the truck. I bought it a few weeks ago, and due to my work schedule and then the holidays coming in the middle of that and all that stuff, I let the dealer know, hey, if I buy this thing, I'm not going to be able to come pick it up until after the first of the year. I even gave them the date I would be able to pick it up. No problem. It can sit here. That's no big deal. It's been here all this time so far. It can stay right where it's at until you're ready to come pick it up. I even gave them the date. No problem at all. So I bought it. We actually financed it, so we went through the whole deal. The day the funding went through and the dealer got their money, they called me and told me, hey, you need to get this truck out of here. I'm like, what are you talking about? You told me it could sit there. I even told you when I'd be down to pick it up. Nope, you need to get this thing out of here. We don't have the room for it. It can't sit on our lot. So if you don't come and get it out of here, we're going to have to just take it out, put it out on the street or something, and then you'll have to deal with it from there. So that did not make me too happy. So the truck was bought, purchased, paid for, and I was on the hook for the note on it. And now the dealer's telling me it has to get off their lot, or they're just going to go take it and dump it out on the street in Las Vegas. So it wasn't going to work. I needed to figure something out quick. Just like how freaking tall this thing is. It's huge. Anyway, luckily the West Coast heavy haul community is a super cool bunch of dudes who, even though we're all like competitors, will bend over backwards to help each other out. It might be that way on the East Coast too, I don't know, but I know for certain that's how we are. The West Coast, always been like that. An absolutely great industry to be in, of people. So I reached out to some other heavy haul guys, and one of them actually knew the guy, one of the head guys at DeLong Heavy Haul, who bought this truck brand new and ran it until they got out to their rotation day, because they rotate their trucks out of their fleet at a certain age. So anyway, he knew a guy there. He gave me his number. I called him out of the blue. Never dealt with any of the guys there, never talked to him. Called him out of the blue, explained a quick 1-minute thing what was going on, asked him if he could help me out. He said absolutely no problem at all. They ran over to the dealer, picked up the truck, took it back over to their yard, stuck it right back in its parking spot where it came from, and said, as long as it needs to sit here, it's totally cool with us. Come down and get it when you're ready. So that was very awesome. Huge thank you to the guys at DeLong for helping me out on that one. So once the holidays came and went, I stole my wife's Jeep and headed down to Vegas to go get the thing picked up. There it is. Lined up with all its brothers and sisters, and for some reason a Kenworth is here too. They got a lot of nice stuff, and that one's mine. So I stopped here at the Maverick for some fuel, supplies, and heading up the road right there is one of DeLong's other trucks pulling, it's like 637 on a steerable 9-axle. Very cool. Okay, well, we got our breakfast, we got our fuel, and while I was here, I went ahead and threw the decals on the side. So we are stickered and numbered, and this truck I actually got it since I bought it a few weeks ago. I actually got all the registration done ahead of time, where this truck is fully registered, ready to go. So the only thing that needs to be done is when I get back to Oregon, I do have to take the DMV and get the physical VIN inspection done. But as far as registration, my IFTA, IRP, this truck's ready to work. So I could legally hook to a trailer right now and take it to work if I wasn't, you know, hooked to a Jeep. But I brought decals with me, got those thrown on. It looks really good. And we are going to start headed north and see how it does. Okay, it is the next morning. We're just getting ready to go, making sure all the lights work and stuff like that. This one's got all the fancy lights down the side, I'll show you. But we're in Winnemucca, Nevada. We stayed at Motel 6 last night because one problem I found with this truck is that it has a 10-minute idle timer, and on this truck, picking up the PTO doesn't eliminate that idle timer. So it's really cold out tonight, and that meant I would have had to be up every 10 minutes to reset the timer. And that wasn't gonna work, so I just got a motel, but that's something we can easily have changed. The truck looks good though. It's got the air cleaner lights, the side lights on it, the lights in the back side of the mirrors. This is a good looking truck. Okay, made it home from our trip, and there's really no more footage in the trip because nothing exciting happened on the trip, which is best case scenario when you buy such an expensive thing so far away. So my front end sunk in here. You can see a big hole right there. It sunk in. The back end sunk. I didn't want to spin anymore because there's a rock in the mud right there. It's getting the sidewall. I made it forward that far from where I was. This is so dumb. 700 miles, flawless. Pull in my driveway, get stuck in the mud trying to get to my trailer. So I'm gonna winch myself out with my pickup, then use the backhoe to spread some rock in here, and then get hooked up. So dumb. I didn't even know we had mud out here. All right, I'm gonna go park the Willys, pull this over there, and get the backhoe to put rock all down here. Okay, the gravel didn't work. I just blew through it and got stuck again. And I'm done playing with this thing, so I just pulled the Zacklift over here. And if we can't get the truck to the trailer, we're just gonna drag the trailer to the truck. Good thing this thing has ramps on it. Guess we should probably pick those up now. Okay, got the landing gear picked up. Now we're just using the remote to run this thing up. That should be locked into the fifth wheel there. What a stupid project that turned into. I had never seen mud anywhere on this property, and then I bring home the nicest vehicle I've ever had and find mud. All right, now these specs on the truck, like I said, this is a 2018 Western Star 4900 SB high hood version, whatever that's actually called. It's got the Detroit DD16, which is why it has that big monster radiator in there. It's designed to be a heavy haul truck, so it's the 600 horsepower, 2,050 foot-pounds of torque DD16 that goes back to an 18-speed transmission, and that comes back here to 2-speed rear end. So on the high side, they're 390 gear ratio. When you flip them down to the low side, I believe it's a 538 gear ratio. So for the front axle, it's a 22,800 pound steer axle, and as you can see right here, it's a dual steering truck, so it's got a steering box on both sides. The other one is what the steering shaft connects to, and this one is ran by hydraulics that's controlled off the other one. Still got a big tie rod that connects the two, but having those dual steering boxes is how you can turn these big 425 tires with 23,000 pounds sitting on them on pavement. It's the one thing this truck needs. The one thing it needs is these tires. This one's not doing it so bad, but it's got some cracking in between all the tread here. The one over here on the other side, this one's doing it quite a bit worse. It's kind of hard to see now, it's all muddy, but I mean, they are hand-cooked tires here, so we've played that game before. So I already called James up at Ben Commercial Tire. He's got another set sitting there of a different brand we're gonna get thrown on Monday. This is Friday, so that's the one and only thing I need to do this truck in order to run it, was just put some new tires on it, on the steer axle. You can kind of see in there. Maybe I'm being over dramatic, but steer axles on a heavy haul truck, there you go. But steer axles on a heavy haul truck are not something I want to play with. You can see, unlike my other one there, this one has the air cleaners on the outside of the hood with the air cleaner lights, and it's got dual stacks. The other thing, this one has the more modern style of mirror. I'm 6'4", and I got to reach all the way up to touch the mirror, but it's got the single bar mirrors, and they are a 4-way power adjustable mirror both sides, which is really, really handy. I actually prefer this style of mirror than the more old school traditional style on that truck. Also, it's got the little spotlight up there with the control inside, like the pistol grip control, so that's cool. Now, being this is a 2018 with that DD16, it is the full emissions truck, so it has DEF, it has SCR box, DPF filter, all the stuff, but it still has the dual stacks instead of the weed burner like my other one. It's got dual fuel tanks, which are the big tanks on it, because like this is not heavy, but this truck normally pulled a 9-axle trailer, so you burn a lot of fuel when you're heavy. It's got a headache rack on the back with all your chain holders all the way across. And then those lights up there function as your turn signals, brake lights, and running lights. Got all your rear work lights off the top up there. And then something really cool that was a surprise when I showed up was this truck has a 2-line wet kit on it. And I even asked the dealer if it had a PTO, and he said no. Turns out it does. When I was looking at the pictures, none of them showed that. There is no hydraulic tank on either side of the truck. And if you look back here, the hydraulic tank is tucked in between the rails of the headache rack. So that is really, really cool. So it's not taking up frame space. It's big enough to run like a Landau, hydraulic connect trailers, towers on the 9-axles and stuff like that on the power towers. Not big enough to run an end dump, but it doesn't have a dump valve on it or a no-tilt fifth wheel, and I'm not interested in putting one on anyway, so that doesn't matter. Fifth wheel slides, you could see it is the long slide fifth wheel that comes all the way up here. That way you can get all 22,000 pounds on the steer axle. In Nevada, California, where these guys mainly ran, you can get 22,000 on the steer. Up here in Oregon, it's just going to be 20, I believe. But it has the long slide fifth wheel, so you can get all that weight up there. Now the drive axles, you can see, have a big space between them. These are actually a 5-foot 1-inch spread between the center of the two axles, as opposed to my other trucks that have the standard 4-foot 4-inch spread. What this will get you in California, Nevada, a lot of those southwestern states, I believe it's 47,338 pounds on these drive axles, but up here in Oregon, you're still limited to 43. See, it's got New Way suspension on it, which is about the best heavy haul air ride suspension there is. You can see super, super beefy suspension. I have done dirty, dirty mean things to New Way suspension with super heavy weights, and it's been totally fine. If we look over here, you can see it's got a double locking fifth wheel, so it's got 2 pull handles. This is your main actual kingpin release, and this is a lock that you have to undo first that, for pulling those big weights, stops it from pulling past that. You can see back here, it's got Kozad ramps on the back with the fancy style of ramps where the upper part slides with the fifth wheel, so you can still run your ramps even with the fifth wheel slid up farther. In the back here, it's got a pintle hitch plus a 2-inch receiver, and then all the air and electrical connections on the back right here. Now on my other Western Star over there, that's a single frame truck, but as I've shown in some other videos, your average truck is a 10.5-inch tall frame rail, like the height of the frame rail from the bottom of it to the top, 10.5 inches. That truck is 12.5 inches, so it's got a much bigger frame, and it's a 3/8 frame instead of a 5/16 like your standard truck, so that's why that one can handle that Zacklift. This truck is the 12.5-inch tall 3/8 frame. You could see right there, doubled with another, I guess you see down there too, with another 3/8 frame. So this is a double 3/8 frame with the 12.5-inch tall web. Very, very beefy, tough frame, and it's doubled like that from the tail all the way up in here to the front. Yes, and it's showing the front. It's got the big monster cross member in the front with the pull pin right here, designed for either pushing a heavy load or being pulled by something else. Well, it's got a few 100,000 pounds behind it. Now, speaking of pulling a few 100,000 pounds, that's another reason this much taller cab this thing has, this higher hood. So the whole cab is lifted off the frame. You could see, like, look at all the room under this thing. I mean, you could dang near crawl into there and do whatever maintenance you need on the bottom side of it. The whole cab is lifted up. The hood goes straight instead of rolling over like the other one. Both those things just make for that much bigger radiator and also help huge with airflow. So when that fan is running and this truck's doing 5 miles an hour pulling up a hill at 250,000 pounds, it flows air a whole lot easier through that radiator to keep everything cool. Now here's the difference between this one and my other one. My other one has windows in the sleeper, which are incredibly handy, but it does not have the sleeper doors, which are also incredibly handy. So on that one, you see it has the windows in both sides, but no doors. So I wish you could do the windows and the doors, but I've only ever seen it as the doors or the windows. But this is a super handy spot to put your tools. On the other side, so you put your gloves, equipment keys, all that type of stuff. Makes it really easy to get to without having like your dirty gloves and stuff like that in the cab of your truck. It's got 2 toolboxes on each side. Both are empty right now. We'll fill those up for sure. It's got the half fenders on it. This is going to make it very, very hard to chain up this axle. Yes, I 100% want to put OnSpot chains on this thing, no doubt about that. And then that would kind of solve this problem, because I could still throw a single on the outside of this back one, have the OnSpots on the under, so that would be plenty for anything I'd need. But this fender is mounted really low. Problem is with the low bed, the way that it swings around and off the road, you get too much higher and you're gonna start catching it with the neck. So I don't know what we can finagle there to get a little more room. Man, it is just a freaking monster. And now, yes, I am really, really glad I painted that trailer, because it just so happens to perfectly match this new truck. Oh, it's a mess in here. I just finished a 2-day road trip, so forgive me a little bit, but yeah. Garbage, e-log, more garbage. Okay, let me clean this up. Okay, so inside it is the same as my other one. They're both the same cab, same size sleeper. All that's the same. The dash setup is a little different. This one doesn't have the data star, which is the whole electronic gauge thing up in here where you can pull up all kinds of different parameters. The gauges that it has are a little different than that one as well. Like, this one does not have a manifold pressure gauge, but instead it has an air cleaner restriction gauge. I think that's the only difference in these gauges here, and then you don't have that whole electronic deal here. But other than that, pretty much all the same, except for down here you have a factory PTO switch instead of an add-on one like we did, and then down here you have your 2-speed rear ends to switch between high and low range. Other than that, pretty much the same. And then you got your pistol grip light here, and up here you have outside air temperature, and then a clock thing up here. That's, oh, here's all your power mirror, your 4-way power mirrors. Where that truck there is just in and out only, and if you wanted to like kick them down, you know, like loosen a bolt up top and move it, which is not a big deal because you almost never need to do that. But if you're backing in somewhere goofy, it is nice to point those mirrors right back down at your drive axle. So inside is basically the same as that one. I think it's a darker wood grain in the dash, I believe, and black doors, black stuff instead of the tan of that one. Okay, now then, why buy a whole nother truck to pull the low bed when that one can pull the low bed just fine? Which, oh, and by the way, this truck is not going to get a Zacklift on it. It is way too short to have an underreach off the back of it, and then that whole ramp setup off the back that is so useful wouldn't work with an underreach that needs to be tucked up in there. So this is not going to be a Zacklift truck. This truck is going to stay exactly as is and be a low bed truck. That truck, the Zacklift, can come off the back, and it can be a low bed truck, and that's great. I've used it for that many, many times, many more times than you've even seen on here. It's a great, great setup, but I want to expand where this truck can go be a low bed truck, and that truck can go be the wrecker at the same time, totally separately doing their own things. This is back more into the equipment hauling, heavy haul type of stuff that I used to do. And that will continue doing what it is now, and it will still get that pulled off and hooked to the flatbed or pull this trailer as needed, and this truck will be a separate deal. Now, one problem with buying that truck to pull low bed trailer is the low bed trailer, because this trailer right here and that truck right there were a really good match for each other as far as like capability wise. They both kind of hit their limits around the same point. This truck, on the other hand, pulling a low bed, this trailer is now the restriction. This truck is made to pull 9-axle dual lane trailers, like 200,000-300,000 pound type of stuff. This is a 35-ton low bed. So this trailer is now my big limitation when it comes to what I can haul for equipment. It's a great, lightweight, fairly short trailer. Also, this truck turns so much freaking sharper than that one. I'll be able to get around so much better with this one. But this is a nice, lightweight, small trailer. Great for the small stuff, but I definitely now need to get a bigger one as well. A West Coast style Rackley triaxle for the Oregon weight laws that are so goofy and weird would be a really nice match for this truck. And we'd be able to haul like 80, I think mid 80s with Oregon's weights on one of those trailers because they're so lightweight as a triaxle. And you know, maybe a 1616 steerable. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm gonna stick with this one, get back into hauling some more equipment with this truck. Maybe even have someone else that's what they do, and I stick with that one over there. And we'll end up getting a bigger trailer for this truck. Then this trailer goes right back to being the swap over for that truck, just how it was before this one showed up. And this one can go even bigger and even better. So working on some expanding, working on some growing, taking this company up a notch and seeing what we can do with it. So with this truck here, I am now not limited by the truck. Currently limited by the trailer. I'm gonna save a few more pennies to make that upgrade, but no longer limited by the truck, which is a huge upgrade right there. That thing, one, it looks so freaking good. This is definitely the nicest truck I've ever owned. As of 2018, it's also the newest vehicle I've ever owned. So very happy with it. Again, huge thanks to the guys at DeLong Heavy Haul for helping me out when the dealer went sideways on me, and also for taking such good care of this thing because it was flawless all the way here. So that's the new truck. You'll probably see a good bit more of it here in the beginning, and if it ends up where the equipment hauling gets built up more where it needs a full-time driver for that, then you'll end up seeing less of it because I'll be back in the other one. But we'll see how it goes. Onward and upward. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.